Hey guys, so with 0.4 just around the corner, I want to talk a little about some of the things that I really want to see coming in that patch. And one of the main things that I really want them to take a look at is the Atlas tree. Now, I'm currently playing Path of Exile 1, and they have a very robust Atlas tree that I think has a lot of good things that Path of Exile 2 can definitely take a look at. But of course, I don't think they should take everything. I do want them to make them separate, and not just everything from Path of Exile 1 needs to be ported into Path of Exile 2. You'll just get the same game at the end of the day. So I want to talk a little about my ideas about what the current Atlas is like, and what I want to see going forward and want to be changed. So in front of me is the current Atlas in Path of Exile 2. Right now, we have a main kind of atlas for general things like just quantity, rarity, precursor tablets, all those things, map pack size. You even have like the non-league mechanics like shrines, strong boxes, wisps, essences, and rogue exiles. Now, that is the main tree. And you get this main tree up by going and doing the Nexus of Corruptions, right? Those corrupted nexuses that you find around the Atlas. Now, you have the quote-unquote league mechanic trees, right? Because these are technically all league mechanics. With Breach, you have Expedition, you have the Delirium, and you have Ritual, and then also you have the map bosses. And these are all separate trees, and they all have their own separate points. Now, the nice thing about the Path of Exile 2 tree is that you don't have to really specialize in anything. You can kind of get everything that you want. That way, if one day you want to run Delirium, you can do that. If one day you want to run Ritual, you can do that. If one day you want to run Expedition, you can do that. And if you want to run the Breach stuff, you can do that as well. You don't have to do any changes. You don't have to do any respecking. It's just all right there for you to go flip-flop and play around with. And of course, you get these randomly in your maps as well. So when you get an Expedition in your map or a Breach in your map, you know that you're going to be getting the full juice no matter what. And that, I think, is a nice part of the game. It's very convenient. It's very, forgiving, friendly, whatever you want to call it, right? That is the nice thing about the Atlas right now. Now, with that out of the way, let's hop into the Path of Exile 1 Atlas tree, because I really want to show you guys what that looks like and what kind of is the draw of that tree. And we'll go over kind of the compare and contrast afterwards and talk about what I want to see from this tree going forward. All right, so this is the Path of Exile 1 tree. And you might have noticed, but it is quite a bit more complicated compared to Path of Exile 2's tree. And I actually don't really like that about it that much. I actually do like the simplicity of Path of Exile's 2 tree, because it really is just learning an entirely different tree at this point. You have like your main skill passive tree, your passive skill tree, and then now you have your Atlas tree, and on top of everything else you have to learn in Path of Exile 1. It's just very overwhelming for anybody who isn't like super ingrained and deep into the game. For me, this passive tree, I basically just went and copied a guide and was like, all right, this is what I'm going to be doing. I didn't even try to learn it or anything like that. But you can see that we have our points in this tree, and all these points do specific things. And my current farming strategy is the stacked deck strategy. So it's a combination of some rituals and also some quantity, pack size, and all that, right? But you can see on here, there are going to be nodes for every single league mechanic in general. So if I search up Delirium, right, you're going to have Delirium nodes right here. If I search up Ritual, you have Ritual nodes here. If you want to search Expedition, right, they'll have Expedition nodes, and so on and so forth. And it is all on this one big shared tree. The positive side of this tree, I think, is really the fact that you can super focus on your specific farming strategy. So let's say you are a person that really likes Ritual. Well, you can make your tree all about Ritual. Right here, I have 3 presets, and I can swap over to my Ritual preset, right? So this one takes in all of the nodes, or at least as much nodes as I can with Ritual. And then it really focuses around making the rewards better, but also making it so that the ritual altars appear in every single one of my maps. Now, this is something that we can do currently in Path of Exile 2 with tablets, right? Every time we want a ritual in our map, we can just put a tablet in there and it will appear every single time. That's not something that you can do in Path of Exile 1 though, but regardless, this is the positive part about this. You can really dive in and super juice out your league mechanic. That this is something that we can't really do in Path of Exile 2. While the Atlas points are impactful, they're not really going to be making or breaking, in my opinion, that specific league mechanic. And there's no way to really customize it, I guess, to your favor. There really is oftentimes like this is the best one, and then you're not really going to be straying that much off of it. So I think that that is one of the big positives about this tree. And it also combines the main tree that we have in the middle in Path of Exile 2 and the outside league mechanic trees. So it's kind of an all-in-one situation. Now, the negatives about it, of course, is that if you're running the other mechanics, let's say you are also getting some deliriums in your maps or something like that, which you can definitely do. They are just like in Path of Exile 2. They can appear randomly in all of your maps. You're not really going to be getting much juice out of delirium. At some point, like, let's say I find, like, I don't know, an expedition, right? Because I'm not spec'd an expedition. A lot of times, on top of expedition, I don't know, I just don't like running it. It's also like, I'm not really getting that much juice out of it anyways, because I'm not spec'd into it at all. So there's no reason for me to really run that mechanic, because it's kind of a waste of time. I really just want to focus on the one that I'm spec'd into and not really focus on any of the other things. So that, in a sense, is a big negative about this tree. But again, I think the main thing that I want you guys to take away from this tree, if you don't understand anything else, is that there is a lot of customization, and that is something that just doesn't exist in Path of Exile 2, and I really want to see more of that. So how can we bring that into Path of Exile 2 without just copying the Path of Exile 1 tree? Well, let's go back to Path of Exile 2, and I'll explain what I want to see. All right, so we are back in the Path of Exile 2 tree. So what do I want to see them doing going forward in patch 0.4? The first thing, of course, is going to be making the tree itself just more impactful. In Path of Exile 1, the tree is extremely impactful, as you saw. You want to have different types of trees for different types of content that you're running. In Path of Exile 2, that is just not the case. Now, I don't want it to be the case where you have to run a different tree for every single thing. That is a little bit, I don't know. Like, I think there should be a baseline, let's just say, for how good the content is, right? Because in Path of Exile 1, it really feels like if I'm not farming that, like if my tree is not specifically catered to that type of content, it really isn't very useful for you to run that content at all. You just kind of skip over it. So I don't want it to be like that either. But at the same time, I really do think that the tree itself, especially the middle tree, is just not very impactful at all. Like, if somebody were to go into my account overnight and unspec every single node off of this tree, I probably wouldn't notice, if I'm going to be honest. Like, just not that impactful. And the things that you can edit on here with Rogue Exiles, Strong Boxes, Shrines, as Merry Wisps, and Essences, like if I was spec'd into those and they unspec'd off of it, I probably would notice at some point. But it, regardless of whether or not I would notice, it's just not very useful. Like, none of these really give you that much money or that much juice. You'd much rather just juice for like tablets, map pack size, rare monsters, and quantity and rarity, right? So I think that the first step they could take for this middle tree really has to be just buffing these up. Because think about it this way, right? The reason why everybody goes this same exact tree where you're just buffing up quantity and rarity and tablets is because none of these side ones are actually good enough to where you'd actually want to invest in them. You get way more mileage from just investing in these parts of the tree, which are oftentimes, at least it feels that way, very intangible. You can't actually feel the difference between having these nodes and not having these nodes, other than potentially over a long period of time, seeing like more currency drops. You can very easily, right, see, oh, if I have a shrine tree, right, you can see that very easily that you have the shrine tree, because you're going to see more shrines and you're going to be picking up the shrines themselves and getting like double buffs. So if you make it so that these outside ones are more impactful and more, I guess, rewarding, you will definitely see a shift in the tree. You will see people putting points in Rogue Exiles. You'll see people putting points in the Essences or the Wisps or the Strong Boxes or the Shrines, right? if they are good enough and value enough for you to actually invest your points into. The other thing that they're probably going to do, and I don't know, maybe they're going to do, I guess, is change it so that rarity itself isn't as big of an issue in the game. Right now, rarity affects currency. And if they make it so that rarity doesn't affect currency anymore, then all these rarity nodes, for example, are probably not going to be as good unless you're farming a specific strategy that does end up using rarity for boosting, let's just say, unique drops, right? You're farming unique drops and you really want the rarity to go up. Or it's like tiered rares. Like those things are going to be useful with rarity, but outside of that, you're going to be wanting to go like a specific type of strategy with like shrines or strongboxes or something, because those are what gives you the money. So I think it's like a twofold problem where like one, the tree itself doesn't feel very impactful, but also two, the outside ones right here with the specific strategy just aren't good enough. So having them actually make it so that you can cater for a strategy that actually is impactful, I think will be a great first step for this tree in the middle. And kind of on that too, right? It's the same thing with these trees as well. Now, these are actually more impactful. You can feel their impact, especially things like ritual or like the expedition. If you get like the big bomb or something like that. But like other than that, like they're impactful, but it's the same problem. Every single person has the same exact tree because there's a right answer. I've mentioned this in the past. There's always like a right answer in Path of Exile 2, and there's nothing really like better or like everything else is way worse than it. What I would really like to see is for there to be a way to actually customize the tree in multiple ways where it's like, well, this one is good for this type of farm, but that one is good for that type of farm. To where like if you want to invest in multiple strategies, you definitely can. But of course, I think there should be a baseline of how good these mechanics are. Because again, in Path of Exile 1, it really feels like if you're not invested into it, you're just not going to run it. Whereas the nice thing about Path of Exile 2 is if you find an expedition in your map and you really want to do it, you'll get full juice. If you want to do a breach in your map, you can do it because you'll get full juice. Other than, of course, from the tablets, right? The tablets will give you more juice for the specific content, but there's always like a baseline minimum that never really feels that bad to run. You don't really feel like you're wasting your time doing it. But the idea that I had for this tree, right? I do like the separate trees for each of the mechanics. It's just very clear, easy to understand, as opposed to the convoluted big mess that's in Path of Exile 1. And I want them to keep that. But I would also like on top of this, right? Maybe we could have extra points on top of this. That's like universal points, right? Add more nodes to these trees, or at least maybe make them more useful, right? We can still keep the same amount of nodes, but honestly, some of these side nodes are kind of useless. Make the nodes better. Make them more specifically tailored to actually like having specifically strategies. And then on top of that, have some basic like universal skill points. Maybe you'll have like 5 or 10, like, I don't know, these all have 8 on them. So maybe like 4 nodes specifically, 4 points that you can spec into any of these trees, like specifically. They can be used for any of them. But the thing is, you only have 4. So if you want to, let's say, juice up your ritual more, you can spend those 4 points on juicing up your ritual. The other trees would still be the same, but then your ritual would be especially juiced. And then now you're kind of starting to focus like, okay, ritual is my farming strategy. So I really want to make ritual even better. Of course, again, tabs are kind of like this, but I would like to see more customization because right now, as it stands, this tree is just not very useful. So that is kind of like one of the ideas that I had to potentially make it so that you can actually customize your tree to be more focused around maybe taking a specific strategy and boosting it up to the moon. So yeah, that's about it for me. I, again, really want the tree to just be more impactful and have more player agency to play the game how they want. And my way of playing the game might not be the same as your way, but they're both just as viable. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about my ideas down in the comments. Do you have any other ideas of your own? Let me know as well. But as per usual, if you like this type of video, remember the best way to support the channel and let me know that you enjoy this type of content is by hitting the sub button. It is completely free and it helps the channel a ton. I also stream on twitch.tv/MeSoXsure every single night. So hang out there as well would be something that I would really appreciate. But until next time, guys, hopefully I can see y'all on my stream. But if not, hopefully I'll see y'all on the next video. All right, guys. Peace.